Hi guys, so today I'm going to show you a super easy recipe to make when your friends are over because this is so tasty and so easy to make, like genuinely. So we need a bit of World War II. Yeah, here it is. What you're gonna do is you're gonna sprinkle a bit of salt on it, you see, and then you're gonna take it to the freezer. I'm gonna put it in there, and you are going to let this freeze a bit for a minute. I'll be back. You need to leave it in there for like 10 minutes. I'll be back. Oh my god, you guys, the recipe is ready and I'm so excited to see how it turned out. Look, see, now you got yourself a bit of Cold War. Like and subscribe for more recipes.
Technically speaking, the Cold War wasn't that much of a literal war. It was a period of geopolitical rivalry in between the US and the USSR and their allies, which basically meant the two big daddy superpowers were trying to spread their influence around the world through aid in several smaller wars. The US's friend group was called NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It was formed at Washington in 1949, and it consisted of a whole lot of countries, which I'm not going to bother to list, so here's the map. This alliance's purpose was defense, since the USSR was making the US shake in their cowboy boots. The USSR was intimidated by NATO, so in response they made their own gang, the Warsaw Pact. It consisted of the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, and oh hey, my country is here! Aw, my country is here. Pop quiz time! Where do you think it was signed? If you said Paris, that is absolutely wrong, and I am disappointed. It was signed in Warsaw. Its purpose was also defense, being signed in 1955 after the threat of NATO. As I mentioned before, the US and the USSR never directly fought. They provided aid in multiple conflicts and civil wars, both trying to spread their influence. Spread cheeks, not communism! Spread cheeks, not capitalism. Since I feel extra generous, I will list and explain some complications of the Cold War. The blockade of Berlin. At the end of World War II, Germany was split in two in order to prevent any power uprising. Berlin, though situated in the eastern part, was also split in two, West and East Berlin. East Berliners could easily travel to the west, see the economic prosperity there, and start a new life. Their leader, Joseph Stalin, didn't like the sound of that. So on June 24, 1948, Stalin cut off any access to West Berlin as a sort of way to pressure the Allies to leave. The Allies, being the Allies, decided to fly the supplies in a massive success. The Korean War. This is Korea, home of K-pop and skincare. Well, the South one anyway. Back in the day, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel, and two regimes were established. In the South, anti-communist, and in the North, communist. On June 25, 1950, North Korean forces invaded the South, leading to a rapid US-led military response. The war lasted 3 years, in which it's estimated 1.5 to 3 million civilians were killed. It was one of the first major proxy wars in the Cold War.
Hey twin, it's approximately half the video here. You know what that means? Go drink some water. You need it.
The Suez Crisis. Gee, get ready for this one, cause not even I understand it properly. It began when Egyptian President Fela Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal on 26 of July 1956. The canal was previously controlled by the Suez Company, which was controlled by mostly France and Egypt, and oh boy were the French pissed. With a big shove from our main characters, the US and the USSR, Egypt found itself at war with Israel, the UK, and, of course, France. Despite the disadvantage in numbers, Egypt was victorious. This crisis accelerated the Cold War tension, since the Soviet Union threatened military action and later supported Egypt's development projects. The Cuban Missile Crisis. Also known as the toughest moment in the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis was a 13-day confrontation where the world nearly fell into a nuclear apocalypse. After the 1959 Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro overthrew the government and aligned Cuba with the Soviet Union, making the U.S. shaking their boots because the commies were getting a bit too close to home. After a close look, the U.S. realized that the USSR had installed medium-range missiles in Cuba, which was funny because the U.S. had installed missiles in Turkey to use against the USSR. So of course the Americans had a little, as we Romanians call it, eventually they sorted it out, with the missiles being deployed from both Cuba and Turkey. The Six-Day War. The Six-Day War was a quick but decisive conflict in between many states: Israel, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. The U.S. supported Israel, while the commies supported the other countries. It took place from June 5th to June 10, No, don't make me say this. Don't make me say this. 1967. 167. It was started by a preemptive airstrike by Israel, who ended up winning the conflict. The Vietnam War. After Vietnam kicked out their French colonizers, they couldn't decide on a regime, so they Korea-styled it. North, communist. South, anti-communist. The US got involved because they feared the domino effect that other countries would fall to communism, so they sent in the troops with a height of 500,000 troops. Something that I don't often see mentioned in Cold War videos during this segment is that the US turned to chemical warfare for a fair part of the conflict, creating a series of rainbow agents, all name-coded from the colors of the barrels they were shipped in. The deadliest was Agent Orange, a chemical herbicide defoliant. It contained a mixture of two herbicides, and more concerningly TCCD, a toxic dioxin classified as a carcinogen. This didn't only have an effect on troops, but on civilians as well. Fairly, the US didn't win this one. I mean fairly because they were being literal asses. Here's a list of other stuff they achieved. The Soviet-Afghan War. The conflict was rooted around Afghanistan's political instability around that time, so the Soviet Union decided it was a perfect time to expand. They launched Operation Storm 333, deploying circa 30,000 troops. They killed off the Democratic Party's leader, but struggled to gain public support. The US interfered because, it's the commies we're talking about, and eventually made the Soviets withdraw. The whole Cold War ended when the USSR faded from existence, and everyone lived happily ever after, which is why I'm here to tell the tale.